Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a B-movie review. And I'll be having a look at the movie Orcs today. So Orcs is a funny little film because it's really taken the bad guys from the Lord of the Rings trilogy and kind of plonking them in a completely unrelated modern day sort of comedy action film. So as you might have guessed from the title, this film is based on orcs. And they look pretty much exactly the same like you've seen in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Probably specifically the two towers in which certain scenes are pretty much recreated. So the story is that it's taking the point of view of these two sort of dumbass sort of park rangers that are kind of one's basically a kind of bit of a sort of lazy layabout, a bit of a time waster. The other one's kind of like a wet behind the ears new recruit. And they're kind of just doing sort of menial tasks within a kind of in a national park in America, and basically there's a mountain there, and this mountain actually houses this army of orcs in it, and they start to escape. There's a prologue at the beginning, sort of 100 or so years ago, sort of, and we get like our first sort of glimpse of it. But this is set in sort of contemporary times, and basically these orcs sort of come out and. People think there first of all that there's bears in the park. There's been a couple of attacks and things, but we soon find to see that obviously they're not bears, and they are actually orcs, and it's up to this kind of these two park rangers and a couple other sort of civilians almost that they kind of sort of rope in to try and help them to sort of fend off this sort of army of orcs. Most of the action takes place within a sort of like a cabin, a police station, or like a ranger station, something like that. And there's like a siege of a night, which is very, very reminiscent of Two Towers. And you've even got the scene where you've got the kind of the suicidal orc running to the door with the explosive and things like that, which is literally recreated. Now, the orcs themselves, as I say, they kind of look a little bit the Orcs from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and they kind of wear that sort of dirty sort of plate armour. Most of you don't actually see much in their sort of face. I'm guessing that's obviously because they didn't want to do too much in the way of makeup. We do see a couple of shots with them without sort of the kind of armour, so you do sort of see their faces on a couple of occasions. But for the most part, they are covered in armour. But even so, the actual armour still looks pretty good. And I said that they're straight out of the Lord of the Rings films, apart from they're obviously a lot fewer in number. They're kind of reusing the same extras doing them, and a lot of them appear to be not as bulky as they probably were in Lord of the Rings. They appear to be, you know, the actors playing the orcs look like kind of just sort of younger people, and they kind of don't look quite as bulky as they sort of did in the Lord of the Rings. But you know, there you go. But it's an interesting mashup because the actual film is kind of a bit of a parody. It's a bit of a sort of, it's not certain, its tongue's firmly in cheek, and you know, it's obviously sort of a very low budget film, and a lot of these actors it's probably their, you know, first or second roles in sort of like minor films and stuff like that. So there's going to be no awards for acting here. I think the acting's fairly passable for this kind of like a sort of almost like a comedy sort of B movie really. The orcs themselves are sort of treated seriously. They're not a kind of jokey sort of bad guys. It's the actual sort of the actual protagonists really that are kind of almost like this sort of comedy duo really. So it's a really strange mix because you kind of, as I say, you've got these bad guys ripped straight from the Lord of the Rings. I'm very surprised that there's not some sort of legal action with this. If I'm completely honest with you, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly sure Tolkien actually created orcs. They were his thing. I don't think it existed before that. I could be wrong about that, but that's just how I understand it. Anyway, so you know, it was an interesting sort of genre mash. I have to say that. But that's an entertaining film. You know, it was probably about average, to be honest with you. There isn't much in the way of story. It is just pretty much just running away from the orcs basically, and that's pretty much it. And the orcs really we don't really understand what it is they're doing, and they just seem to be running around in the forest really, and not really particularly organised or doing anything. But it was okay for a bit of a time waster. It almost plays a little bit like a zombie film, but instead of zombies, you've got orcs. So you know, interesting film. You know, not pretty much forgettable though, if I'm completely honest. But worth it if you're interested in Lord of the Rings. You kind of want to see orcs in a sort of modern day setting. So just for the sort of like the pure sort of curiosity value, I'm gonna give this one a 4.5 out of 10. So have you seen it? What did you think? And how do you think the Orcs compare to the sort of the Lord of the Rings films? Leave me a comment. I look forward to seeing you next time. See you later.